They had it all: beauty, fame, power. But in Hollywood, even the brightest lights can burn out. These stars didn't just fade with age, they went down in flames. Once celebrated as icons of allure, they became cautionary tales, transformed into scandals that refused to be forgotten. Some faces turned from glamorous to grotesque, haunting the very memories they once enchanted. And number 7? Pure nightmare fuel. Which downfall shook you the most, or still creeps into your dreams? Share it if you dare. Rudy Giuliani. From America's mayor to a national tragedy. Rudy Giuliani's story isn't a Hollywood script, but it plays out like one, except the ending is darker than anything on the silver screen. Once celebrated as America's mayor, he stood as a pillar of courage and composure in the aftermath of 9/11. Back then, Giuliani symbolized resilience, the very image of dignity under fire. But 2 decades later, that legacy lies in ruins. At 81, Giuliani has become a living cautionary tale, a man whose decline in health and character seem tragically intertwined. His once commanding presence has given way to a frail, pale figure, disheveled and unrecognizable. This is not just age catching up, it's the crushing weight of scandal, lawsuits, and public disgrace. From the infamous press conference where black hair dye streamed down his face, to his frantic rants about baseless conspiracies, Giuliani has fallen from respected statesman to internet punchline. His reckless defense of false election claims stripped him of the very things that defined him: his reputation, his credibility, and even his law license. The media that once hailed him now mocks his every misstep. Once revered, he now stumbles through the spotlight as a warning of how power, pride, and desperation can consume even the mightiest figures. Giuliani's downfall is a brutal reminder. No legacy is untouchable, and in clinging to power, he destroyed the one thing that made him powerful in the first place: trust. Mickey Rourke, the Hollywood heartthrob who lost his battle with time. In the 1980s, Rourke wasn't just a star, he was a force. Brooding, magnetic, and impossibly intense, he lit up the screen in films like 9½ Weeks and Angel Heart. Critics hailed him as the next Brando, a man with both raw charisma and undeniable talent. He wasn't simply handsome, he carried an edge, a danger, that made audiences believe every move he made on screen. But in the early 90s, Rourke made a fateful choice. He walked away from acting to step into the boxing ring. The decision would alter everything. Years of brutal fights left his once striking face battered and broken, forcing multiple reconstructive surgeries. When he returned to Hollywood, fans were stunned. The man who once embodied intensity and allure was now almost unrecognizable. A desperate series of plastic surgeries followed, each one taking him further away from the natural beauty that once defined him. Now, at 72, Rourke continues chasing youth through cosmetic procedures, but what remains is more wax figure than leading man. His fierce energy is still there, but buried beneath layers of surgery and years of struggle. Once admired for his fearless performances, Rourke now stands as one of Hollywood's most tragic transformations, a reminder of the heavy price of fighting both time and yourself. So, what do you think? Was Mickey Rourke fighting his opponents in the ring, or fighting his reflection in the mirror? Chevy Chase. Would you even recognize him today? Once a towering comedy legend, now a cautionary tale of Hollywood downfall. Chase rose to fame as one of the original stars of Saturday Night Live, and his sharp wit catapulted him into blockbuster hits like Caddyshack, Fletch, and National Lampoon's Vacation. With his tall frame, classic good looks, and razor-sharp deadpan humor, he became one of the highest-paid actors of the 1980s, commanding a staggering $7 million per film. But success came with a trail of enemies. His sudden exit from SNL and a backstage fistfight with Bill Murray, who once branded him a medium talent, revealed a dark pattern. Behind the laughs was a man colleagues often called toxic. Over the years, his reputation only worsened. Racially charged comments toward Community co-star Donald Glover, cruel jabs at female writers, and an arrogant on-set presence that left bridges in ashes. Time, too, has not been kind. At 81, Chase looks bloated and weary, his once commanding presence reduced to a strained voice and a bitter scowl. The charming king of comedy has withered into a man seemingly hardened by resentment. And yet, he remains defiant. In a 2018 interview, when asked about the criticism, he shrugged it all off. "I am who I am, and I like who I am." Chevy Chase didn't just lose his shine, he aged not only poorly, but bitterly, both inside and out. Madonna, the queen of pop, locked in a desperate battle with time. Once celebrated as the master of reinvention, her latest transformation has left fans more shocked than inspired. At 65, she clings to youth with an iron grip, turning to extreme cosmetic procedures instead of embracing the grace of age. The result? A face stretched, plumped, and frozen into something almost unrecognizable, tight, expressionless, and far from the daring beauty that once defined an era. But her decline goes deeper than appearances. On stage, Madonna's performances now carry an unsettling sense of desperation. Sharing the spotlight with dancers young enough to be her grandchildren, she struggles to match the energy, her movements emphasizing her age rather than concealing it. Online, things are no better. Bizarre, heavily filtered videos and awkward posts have only distanced her from even her most loyal supporters. And that's the tragedy. Madonna had the chance to blaze a new trail, to show the world that female icons can age powerfully and on their own terms. Instead, she's become a cautionary tale, not of reinvention, but of denial, obsession, and the high price of refusing to let go. Courtney Love, the rock star who never played by the rules of aging gracefully. Nobody embodied chaos quite like her. In the 90s, she wasn't just a musician, she was a cultural explosion. As the fiery frontwoman of Hole and the widow of Nirvana's Kurt Cobain, Courtney stormed onto stages, red carpets, and tabloid covers with unmatched ferocity. Torn dresses, smeared lipstick, and a voice that could rattle the rafters or tear your soul apart. She was danger and allure rolled into one. But today, the picture couldn't be more different. At 60, Courtney's transformation ranks among the most striking in rock history. The once rebellious beauty is etched with the scars of addiction, emotional turmoil, and a series of surgeries that seem to battle time and lose. The face that once sneered into microphones now tells a harsher story, tightened, weary, and to some, barely recognizable. Her personal life has mirrored the same turbulence. Public feuds, unfiltered social media tirades, and a fractured bond with her daughter, Frances Bean, have kept her in the headlines as often as her music. Attempts at clarity and comebacks have surfaced, but more often than not, they've drowned in her own self-made chaos. Courtney Love hasn't simply aged, she's unraveled in slow motion. And yet, that implosion leaves behind a legacy as polarizing as it is unforgettable. Axl Rose, from rock god to cautionary tale. In the late 80s, Axl Rose wasn't just a rock star, he was rock and roll. As the electrifying frontman of Guns N' Roses, he stormed arenas with a voice that could shake the heavens, a stage presence that felt untouchable, and those snake-like moves that sent crowds into a frenzy. With his fiery red hair, trademark bandanas, and glass-shattering screams, Axl became the ultimate bad boy of rock, wild, raw, and unstoppable. But time has a way of taming even the fiercest flames. At 62, Rose's transformation is one of the most startling in rock history. The lean, dangerous figure is gone, replaced by a softer frame. His once legendary voice now struggles, cracking and fading as he leans on backing vocals to carry the songs that once defined an era. Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child O' Mine. His puffy face, slower movements, and weary presence stand in stark contrast to the live wire who once ruled the stage with supernatural energy. Offstage, his reputation hasn't fared much better. In the 90s, his obsession with perfection turned into paranoia, fueling a string of erratic outbursts, canceled shows, and endless delays that alienated fans and bandmates alike. Yet unlike many who deny their decline, Axl has shown rare flashes of brutal honesty, once admitting after a rough show, "I know I'm not the singer I was." Still, Rose refuses to surrender. Instead of adapting, he fights the aging process head-on, clinging to the chaos that once defined him. His story is no longer just about glory, it's a haunting reminder of how even gods of rock can stumble when they refuse to change. Brigitte Bardot, from global beauty icon to controversial recluse. Once celebrated as the most beautiful woman alive, Bardot was the ultimate French sex symbol of the 1950s. With her sun-kissed blonde hair, rebellious aura, and irresistible charm, she didn't just act in films. She became a cultural force who redefined femininity and left a lasting imprint on fashion and cinema. Bardot wasn't simply a star. She was a movement. But the Bardot of today, now 89, is a shadow of that luminous goddess the world once adored. After stepping away from the screen in 1973, she retreated into private life, dedicating herself passionately to animal rights. While her activism earned admiration, her legacy has since grown darker. In recent decades, she's faced multiple convictions in France for inciting racial hatred, largely over anti-Muslim remarks and outspoken support for far-right politics. The fierce independence that once defined her has been clouded by bitterness and controversy. Physically, Bardot chose not to hide behind surgery or cosmetic enhancements. Time, the sun, and perhaps the weight of inner conflict have carved deep lines into her face. The contrast is heartbreaking. The radiant symbol of carefree beauty turned into an isolated, fiery voice steeped in anger. Beauty fades. Headlines linger. And so the question remains, when you think of Brigitte Bardot, do you remember the legend or the scandals? Marlon Brando's downfall, a genius consumed by fame. Brando wasn't just a movie star, he was a revolution. In the 1950s, his raw, electric performances in A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront didn't just redefine acting, they rewrote the very language of cinema. With his dangerous beauty, magnetic presence, and unshakable charisma, Brando became the gold standard, the man every actor wanted to be, and every audience could never forget. But brilliance has a price, and for Brando, the cost was steep. By the 1970s, even as he delivered an immortal performance in The Godfather, his discipline began to unravel. His weight spiraled, his commitment faltered, and chaos followed him like a shadow. On the set of Apocalypse Now, he arrived overweight and unprepared, relying on an earpiece to whisper him lines. Years later, during The Island of Dr. Moreau, he sat on set with an ice bucket on his head, demanding a dwarf actor mimic his every move, turning genius into spectacle. Off-screen, the story darkened further. His son went to prison for manslaughter. His daughter ended her life in despair. Brando himself withdrew into exile on his private Tahitian island, where tales of him answering the door unclothed or binge-eating until he fell ill became the stuff of legend. By the time he passed in 2004, the once panther-like figure who moved with fire and grace had become nearly 400 pounds, barely able to walk, a ghost of the icon who had once changed the world. In the end, Marlon Brando's final curtain revealed not just a fallen star, but the tragic cost of brilliance burning too brightly for too long. Val Kilmer, from Hollywood royalty to a haunting farewell. Few stars have burned as brightly, or as tragically, as Val Kilmer. In the 1980s and 90s, he seemed untouchable, devastatingly handsome, effortlessly magnetic, and blessed with a talent that could shapeshift from rock star swagger in The Doors to the icy cool of Top Gun, and even the cape and cowl of Batman Forever. When he stepped into Michael Keaton's shoes as the Dark Knight, it felt like the crowning moment of his career, proof that Kilmer had ascended to the very summit of Hollywood stardom. But fame's peak was short-lived. Behind the camera, whispers grew louder. Directors branded him difficult, arrogant, combative. On the chaotic set of The Island of Dr. Moreau, Kilmer reportedly refused to leave his trailer, grinding production to a halt. Even Tommy Lee Jones, his Batman Forever co-star, famously dismissed him with the sharp words, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery." What had been a meteoric rise began to crack under the weight of reputation. Then came a harsher blow than Hollywood politics could deliver. A brutal battle with throat cancer stole not only his booming voice but also the rugged beauty that had defined his screen presence. By the time of his death on April 1, 2025, at age 65, Kilmer was nearly unrecognizable, frail, aged, and forever changed by illness. Yet even in suffering, he never surrendered his artistry. In his final years, Kilmer turned inward, channeling his pain into poetry, painting, and reflection. What emerged was not the cocky Hollywood heartthrob of the 90s, but a man laid bare, vulnerable, soulful, and unexpectedly graceful. So how should we remember Val Kilmer? As a fallen star undone by ego and illness, or as a misunderstood artist who fought for meaning until the very end? Share your thoughts below. Lindsay Lohan, from teen queen to Hollywood cautionary tale. Few child stars have soared so high, only to fall so publicly as Lindsay. In the early 2000s, she was America's darling. With her natural charisma and razor-sharp comedic timing, she lit up the screen in Freaky Friday and Mean Girls, her future seemingly sealed as one of Hollywood's next great leading ladies. But what followed became one of the most infamous spirals in showbiz history. A storm of DUIs, failed drug tests, rehab stints, and mugshots turned her life into endless tabloid headlines. The decline wasn't just in the papers, it was etched into her face. The once radiant starlet appeared bloated, weary, and visibly scarred by years of abuse. By her late 20s, she shockingly looked decades older than her age. In desperation, Lindsay turned to cosmetic procedures, chasing a return to the beauty that had once defined her. Instead, the results were jarring. Tightened skin stretched across a face still carrying the heavy toll of exhaustion and struggle. Her career unraveled into low-budget misfires and missed opportunities, a stark contrast to the promise she once held. To her credit, Lohan fought for redemption. She relocated to Dubai, embraced sobriety, and pursued steadier roles. But even now, at 38, the traces of her battles remain. She often appears older than actresses well into their 50s, her face a haunting reflection of fame's darkest costs. Lindsay's story isn't just about a star who stumbled. It's a sobering reminder that early fame can blaze brighter than the sun, yet burn out faster than anyone dares imagine. Nick Nolte, from sexiest man alive to Hollywood's cautionary tale. In the 1970s and 80s, Nick Nolte embodied rugged American masculinity, raspy-voiced, broad-shouldered, and radiating a brooding intensity that made audiences lean in. He lit up the screen in 48 Hours, North Dallas 40, and The Prince of Tides, performances so magnetic they crowned him People magazine's sexiest man alive in 1992, an honor few ever achieve. But the Nick Nolte we see today is almost unrecognizable. At 83, he carries the weight of time and turmoil. The chiseled jawline that once made women swoon has softened, his athletic frame has slumped, and that wild mane of golden hair has turned to a shock of white. Each step, each glance, seems haunted by decades of chaos behind the fame. The truth is, Nolte's transformation isn't just about age, it's the scars of a lifelong war with addiction. He's spoken candidly about his struggles with alcohol and GHB, a powerful sedative that ravaged his health and sped up his decline. The world remembers his infamous 2002 mugshot, dazed eyes, disheveled hair, and a vacant stare that became a viral symbol of Hollywood's darker side. Though he's continued to act, often slipping into grizzled, complex roles that mirror his own weathered reality, the contrast is staggering. Once a heartthrob, now a living parable of what unchecked addiction and the pressures of stardom can do, Nolte remains unforgettable. His gravelly voice still carries power, but his appearance tells the haunting story of a man who once ruled Hollywood and now stands as its cautionary tale. Terrence Howard. Once hailed as Hollywood's golden child, he seemed destined for greatness. In the early 2000s, his face was everywhere. Critics praised his performances, he earned an Oscar nomination for Hustle and Flow, and he secured the coveted role of James "Rhodey" Rhodes in Marvel's Iron Man. With undeniable charm, sharp good looks, and magnetic talent, Howard looked like a man built for A-list longevity. But Hollywood can be merciless, and Terrence's downfall wasn't caused by scandal alone. It was his unpredictability. After heated clashes with Marvel over pay disputes and rumors of volatile on-set behavior, he was cut from the Iron Man franchise and replaced by Don Cheadle. That single career pivot marked the beginning of a slow unraveling. Off-screen, his personal life spiraled. Multiple marriages and divorces, accusations of domestic violence, and bitter public feuds left his once polished reputation in tatters. Yet what stunned Hollywood most wasn't just the chaos. It was the bizarre turn his public persona began to take. In interviews, he made strange claims, including his now infamous belief that 1 × 1 = 2, and promoted his own brand of science and mathematics. For a time, Empire reignited his career, giving him one last blaze of glory. But soon, the erratic behavior returned. He made cryptic announcements about retiring from acting, not to fade away, but to bring truth to the universe through his self-created system of thought. Moves like these alienated both studios and longtime fans. Now 55, the once suave leading man looks visibly worn, scarred by battles both public and private. Once a Hollywood heartthrob, Terrence Howard has become a fringe figure, half mystery, half cautionary tale. So here's the question. Is Terrence Howard a misunderstood genius ahead of his time, or just another star who burned too bright, too fast? Do the math, and drop your take in the comments. Even if you still believe that 1 × 1 somehow makes 2. Gary Busey. From Oscar glory to reality TV chaos, the Gary Busey story is one of Hollywood's most shocking transformations. In the late 1970s and early 80s, Busey wasn't just another actor, he was a rising star. With rugged charm and undeniable talent, he earned critical acclaim and even an Academy Award nomination for his electrifying portrayal of rock legend Buddy Holly. He seemed destined for greatness. But fate had other plans. In 1988, while riding his motorcycle without a helmet, Busey suffered a horrific crash that left him with a traumatic brain injury. Emergency surgery saved his life, but it also changed him forever. By his own admission, the accident rewired his mind, altering his personality and the very way he thought. The promising actor once praised for intensity and craft soon became known for his wild unpredictability. His interviews turned into rambling spectacles, his public appearances baffled audiences, and physically, he was almost unrecognizable. His once handsome face grew exaggerated, his dental work became late-night comedy fodder, and tabloids turned him into a caricature. Now, at 80, Busey has leaned into that eccentric image, popping up on shows like Celebrity Apprentice and Celebrity Big Brother. While often entertaining, his story carries an undeniable sadness, the tale of a man whose brilliant trajectory was shattered in a single moment. Gary Busey's decline isn't just about aging. It's a haunting reminder of how quickly one accident can derail a legacy. Steven Seagal, from action hero to global infamy. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Steven Seagal wasn't just another Hollywood tough guy, he was a phenomenon. Stoic, sharp, and effortlessly cool, his Aikido mastery and trademark ponytail set him apart from every other action star of his era. Blockbusters like Under Siege and Hard to Kill cemented his place as a household name, while his squinting stare and calm menace made him a unique force on screen. But that legend feels like a distant memory. Today, at 72, Seagal is almost unrecognizable both physically and professionally. Once lean and lethal, he's now gained over 100 pounds, his athletic frame replaced by a sluggish, bloated presence. His dyed ponytail and all-black outfits no longer project mystique, only parody. Viral clips show him barely lifting a hand as stuntmen fling themselves to the floor, while martial arts experts openly ridicule the charade. Off-screen, his reputation has fallen even harder. Former colleagues like John Leguizamo and Erika Eleniak describe him as arrogant, volatile, and impossible to work with. Multiple women, including Jenny McCarthy and Portia de Rossi, have accused him of sexual misconduct, with reports surfacing as recently as 2018. Once one of Hollywood's highest-paid stars, Seagal now drifts through low-budget, direct-to-video projects where body doubles often do the heavy lifting. And then comes the political twist. Seagal has cozied up to Vladimir Putin, obtained Russian citizenship, and even defended Russia's invasion of Ukraine on state television. The action hero who once embodied American grit is now a polarizing figure aligned with America's adversary. Steven Seagal hasn't simply aged, he's transformed into a caricature of his former self. The question is, was he a fallen icon undone by time, or just living proof that unchecked ego eventually devours itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. No Aikido skills required. Oh, Jay, Simpson. From national hero to one of the most infamous downfalls in history, no name on this list carries a heavier shadow. Once the very picture of the American dream, Simpson wasn't just a record-breaking NFL superstar, he was a barrier breaker in Hollywood and advertising, a charismatic trailblazer with $1 million smile. By the 1970s and 1980s, he wasn't only respected, he was adored. But that golden image shattered. His physical decline told a story almost as haunting as his reputation. The man who once dazzled fans with speed and strength became bloated, hunched, and hollow-eyed during 9 years behind bars for armed robbery and kidnapping. Prison photos revealed a figure drained of vitality, his sagging face and lifeless eyes a cruel echo of the legend he once was. When Simpson walked free in 2017, cane in hand, his steps were slow, his body frail, a ghost of the man who once sprinted through airports in iconic Hertz commercials. Yet no amount of aging or frailty compared to the collapse of his legacy. Though acquitted in 1995, the civil judgment that held him responsible for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman permanently scarred his public image. Friends said bitterness clung to him in later years, a man forever haunted by what had slipped away. By the time he died in April 2024 at age 76, the transformation was complete. O.J. Simpson's journey had come full circle, from beloved icon to cautionary tale. Was he a fallen hero? Or a mask that finally cracked to reveal the truth beneath? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode of Exposed Hollywood. Because in Tinseltown, the most gripping drama doesn't always play out on the big screen.